You adopt a child, but what could be a dream turns into a nightmare because Esther is a psychopath and will destroy everything you love. Today we will see how to beat the orphan, but before we get started, I would like to ask you to hit the thumbs up icon below, subscribe and hit the bell icon, so you will be notified whenever a new video is available. That being said, let's go to the video. John and Kate went through a hard time. They lost their daughter in childbirth. Also, Kate had some problems with alcohol, and the couple had problems with their relationship as well. Still, things are getting better, and they have two children, Max, a 5-year-old girl, and Daniel, a 12-year-old boy. Although the loss of the baby was a very traumatic experience, the couple decided to have a new child. So they ended up adopting Esther, who is 9 years old and comes from Russia. The girl also has been through a lot, but seems to be quite smart and adorable. She immediately enchants both Kate and John. One of the sisters at the orphanage tells the couple more information about Esther. She came from Russia, adopted by an American family, but Esther's adoptive parents died in an accident. Their house was burned. Sister Abigail says Esther went through a lot, but still she's a good girl, quite articulate and mature for her age. And on top of that, she's very talented. She draws and sings very well. She really looked like a great child to adopt. When they take Esther to her new home, she quickly approaches Max. The same doesn't happen with Daniel, who is not so happy with the idea of having a new sister. Soon we see some red flags that something is wrong with Esther. First, one day, when Daniel accidentally shoots a bird, Esther kills the bird in cold blood. She asked Daniel to do that in order to end the bird's suffering, which makes sense, but when the boy refuses, Esther acts in a way that tells us that there's something wrong with her. Another case occurs when a girl who was bullying Esther at the school is pushed off the top of one of the playground toys. The girl says she was pushed. Esther of course denies it, and Max confirms Esther's version of the story. That's because Esther manages to manipulate her foster siblings so they don't tell the whole truth about her. There were other warning signs. The girl didn't want to go to the dentist or any doctor at all. We don't know exactly why at first, but later it becomes clear. And also, this girl never takes off the ribbons that cover her wrists and neck. She also locks the door to take a bath, an attitude that seemed a little strange to Kate. All of these things, even though they were a little bit awkward, well, it wasn't enough to be considered a red flag. But that changed with Sister Abigail's visit. After she learns that Esther allegedly pushed a classmate on the playground, Sister Abigail decides to tell a few things to Esther's new parents. At Kate and John's house, Sister reports that whenever an accident happened, Esther was always nearby. She starts to talk about a boy who fell with scissors and ended up cutting his own throat. And of course, Esther was close when that happened. Even the fire that took place at Esther's first adoptive parents' house now looks more suspicious. Sister brings up new information that the fire was criminal, but they never found who was responsible for it. Kate is willing to believe that there's something wrong with Esther, mainly because with her the girl had acted rude, saying bad things, or proven to be underhanded on certain occasions. John, on the other hand, defends Esther by saying that there's nothing wrong with her and that the suspicions both Kate and Sister Abigail are raising are nothing but nonsense. To find out more about who Esther is, Sister says she will try to get in touch with the Russian orphanage where she was raised. Perhaps this should have been the right time to take the girl back to the orphanage where she could be left under supervision. You know, just until it was confirmed that everything was okay with her. Or not okay. But the problem is that for a child who is adopted to have to go back to the orphanage because their adoptive parents are kind of scared of her, it would be very traumatic. It's a hard decision since they didn't know exactly what they were dealing with. So it makes sense that they didn't send her back to where she once belonged. To quote the Beatles, probably no one in this situation would take an attitude of just getting rid of that child. At least not now. When the nun is leaving, Esther manipulates Max into helping her to take care of Sister Abigail. And Esther appeals to an extremely drastic attitude. She pushes down Max down the road as a bait for Sister Abigail. When the nun goes to help Max, she ends up being attacked by Esther, who immediately kills her. Something we see helping Esther to continually trick everybody is her manipulative skills. Although it seems easy to defeat her because she is physically fragile, we need to understand that this makes her more dangerous. After all, you look at her and see a child. You think nothing bad or evil could come from this little kid, and this sort of perspective that most of us have, which is very natural by the way, makes Esther more destructive. But if her body is fragile, her mind is sharp enough to carry on with her plan. Esther tells Max that if anyone finds out what happened to Sister Abigail, both Esther and Max will be arrested, because after all, Max will be her partner in crime. Daniel, on the other hand, is strengthened during the night when Esther enters his room with a knife. It may seem a little absurd to us that these two kids didn't tell their parents right away what was going on with Esther, but remember, they are children. There's no way to expect a sophisticated sort of thinking from them. The 5-year-old girl must have thought she would be locked up forever and would never see her parents again. And the boy, he was afraid of what Esther could do to him or his parents. Esther was very successful in working on both siblings' fears, so they wouldn't know what to do. Other than that, Esther was able to manipulate the psychiatrist very well. To the psychiatrist, the girl was great, and the big problem was Kate, who didn't want to bond with Esther, nor to build a relationship with her. To make matters worse, she still managed to create a great tension in the couple, which made it even more difficult for them to reach consensus. It was more like nonsense talk of a troubled woman who couldn't stand the loss of her daughter. See how smart she was? She exploited all the couple's traumas, their weaknesses, and their problems. Guys, in this situation, Kate couldn't just send Esther away. Her husband wouldn't agree, and Kate couldn't use violence against Esther because that would only make her look like a crazy woman. Another thing is that Kate had some problems with drinking, and she quit drinking, but one night she ended up buying 2 bottles. She doesn't drink though. But Esther manages to find the hiding empty bottles and show them to John. So even though Kate said she did not drink and instead had thrown it all down the sink, it was a little hard to believe in her story. What if Kate tries to get her kids out of the house? Well, she will look like a crazy person, and given her background, she would be locked up in a mental institution or something like that. Definitely not a good call, because then Esther would be able to act freely. But not everything in Esther's plan is perfect. There are some flaws. Kate could do a few things in order to get evidence that proves that Esther was evil, so this way she could convince John to get rid of the orphan. First of all, Kate does something that is very good, which is researching Esther's past. She tries to get more information by contacting the Russian orphanage where Esther was raised. It happens though that there is no file of her in the institution. If I were Kate, another thing I would do would be set up a spy camera in Esther's room. That way, if the girl displayed any suspicious attitude, I would have everything recorded and could use it as a proof. There are even some teddy bears that have cameras. I would leave one of these in Esther's room. If Kate had put a camera in Esther's room, she would have recorded these weird drawings which become visible with blue light. They're creepy as hell. Another thing is that Esther just tells disturbing things to Kate, while to John she pretends to be a nice girl. So it would be good for Kate to use a hiding voice recorder when she talks to the girl alone. This could also be good evidence that Esther is completely underhanded. That, with the incidents that have been taking place, should have been enough to make John see that Esther was indeed a psychopath. Of course, here we have plenty of plot holes, most of them to benefit the villain. For instance, Daniel talks to Max and asks her to help him so they can tell their parents that his foster sister is evil. Max tells him that Esther did hurt Brenda and that she killed Sister Abigail, and the evidence is in the tree house. But Esther hears everything behind the door. That's another thing. Every time someone plots against her or goes through her things, she always notices immediately. It's like she has a spider sensor or something. Daniel goes through the tree house in the morning, but Esther follows him, locks him inside the tree house and burns the place down. The boy escapes through the window with everything on fire and then falls off the tree house. From now on, we see that Esther's lie is untenable because she was taking more and more drastic actions to support her lies. First with Brenda, who got hurt, then with Sister Abigail, who disappeared, and now with Daniel. It's just a matter of time until somebody links her to these acts. That being said, I want to highlight that Daniel wasn't very smart here, cause think about it. In the night Max told him everything, he should tell his parents all the truth about Esther immediately. He could use Max's drawings as a proof and tell them that Esther threatened him and everything. I would say, look, that girl's crazy and we have to get rid of her right now. Call the police, Nanny Poppins, whatever. After making an attempt on Daniel's life, the boy is sent to a hospital. There, Esther once again tries to kill him, only to prevent him telling everyone what she did to him before. Kate realizes what Esther has done and slaps her right on the face, which is understandable, let's be honest, but it's not good strategy. It's not a good idea to go out beating children in public. And for that reason, Kate is sedated. Kate had gone through Esther's Bible where she found the name of a place, Sarn Institute. She finds out that the place was not an orphanage, but an institute of psychiatry. And one of the institute employees calls her to tell that Esther is not what Kate believes. In fact, she's a grown woman who suffered from a condition that gave her features of proportional dwarfism. Her real name is Lena Klemmer, a 33-year-old Estonian woman. It's said that she was one of the most aggressive patients at the Sarn Institute. She used to be tied up with straps on a bed, which gave her several scars as she tried to get rid of the straps. That's why her neck and wrists are covered, to hide the scars. The other family that adopted Esther was killed by her. This after she tried to seduce her adoptive father and was rejected. Esther wants to do the same now with John. You know what I think is funny? Is the fact that after knowing all of this, Kate doesn't call the police right away from the hospital. No, she only calls the police when she is already in the car. There's no time to lose, you should call the police as fast as you can. Anyway, John ends up dying, he was drunk, the lights were off, and Esther took advantage of that to attack him. Since he did not expect Esther to attack him out of the blue, it's pretty hard to think about how he could avoid his death. On the other hand, things could be different if a while ago Max had told him the whole truth about Esther, because she had the opportunity to do it. Max was already sent to expose that Esther was evil. We saw this at the hospital, so why didn't she tell John what she knew? I think it's kind of absurd that she doesn't tell John after all. But anyways, as for Kate, well, I don't know about you, but if I know that there's a psychopath in my house, the first thing I do when I get home is get a gun. Could be a knife in the kitchen or something like that. But Kate won't go after a gun, even after she saw her dead husband in the living room. Kate just walks around the house unarmed. Another mistake she makes is when she finally fights Esther, because after knocking out the violence, she doesn't confirm if Esther is dead. If she wasn't feeling like killing her, she could at least tie her up. That's the biggest mistake in these horror movies. The good guy knocks out the bad guy. The good guy doesn't confirm if he killed the villain, and afterwards, the villain catches the good guy, and that's the end. Not confirming if the bad guy is dead always puts the protagonists in jeopardy. That's exactly what happens here. But at the end, Kate manages to give Esther a kick in the face and kills her. And everything ends up great. I mean, her husband is dead, her son is in a coma, her house was destroyed. But that aside, yeah, everything is fine. Well, this is it guys. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up icon below, and if you want to be notified of other videos, hit subscribe and then the bell icon. See you soon!